Hello, I'm reporter Julie Spencer, and I'd like to welcome you to Newsline, Iowa City. Looking for something different to do on one of these cold, snowy Iowa days? Then I may have something just for you. A trip to the University of Iowa Museum of Natural History.
The Museum of Natural History began in 1858 as the Cabinet of Natural History within the old Capitol, which is next door to us. So this is our 150th birthday in 2008, which we will be celebrating next year in 2009. We have three main galleries: Iowa Hall, which we are standing in now, Mammal Hall, and the Hedgebeck Hall of Birds. We also have a small gallery that opened last year called the Biosphere Discovery Hub, which talks about the environment of Iowa and the University of Iowa's contributions to environmental research around the world. The gallery opens with this diorama, which shows two men from the Iowa tribe. The Iowa tribe inhabited Iowa for over 1,000 years, and that's where the name of our state comes from. And they're looking out over the Mississippi River, and they're looking at the canoes of Marquette and Joliet, which was the first expedition from Europe to reach Iowa over 100 years before Lewis and Clark. So we begin and end the gallery with this because it's a very important moment in our history. Everything we know about Iowa's natural history before this moment in time comes from the natural sciences, geology, archaeology, and after this we do have a written record of what goes on in the state. So this is our dividing line between history and prehistory in Iowa. And this gallery is laid out like a timeline. So after this we begin with the geology of Iowa. We show the timeline here from oldest at the bottom to newest at the top. And then there are small exhibits for each of these geologic eras and dioramas for some of the most important ones to Iowa's geologic history. The first main diorama we hit is from the Devonian period, which many people in Iowa City are familiar with due to the Devonian Fossil Gorge up at the Coralville Reservoir, which is where we have some of the best examples of fossils from this time period. And so we are showing you what we think Iowa looked like during the Devonian period when we were covered by a shallow ocean. So many of the creatures that people find fossils of in this area, the different corals, which is where Coralville gets its name, some of the brachiopods and trilobites and other small creatures, crinoids, the sea lilies on either side of the diorama. And then in the middle we have our Dunkleosteus fish, which was kind of the king of the Devonian period, and actually what we show you here is a baby Dunkleosteus. They could get to larger than the size of a school bus. So those were quite impressive animals during that time period. And as we follow on our timeline, on this wall we show different fossils from each of the time periods that we find in Iowa. Again, some fossils from the Devonian period. And the gallery that we're in right now, Iowa Hall, was constructed in 1985, and this is our centerpiece gallery that most of our school children that visit the museum take guided tours of this gallery. Here we have a diorama depicting the Pennsylvanian era. This is based on a scene down near Pella, Iowa, and this is when Iowa was pretty much a tropical rainforest. We have the first trees and plants, and it was very warm at this time period, and this is where our coal deposits in the state come from, are from Pennsylvanian era deposits. They show up mostly along the Des Moines River in southeast Iowa. We don't show a lot about dinosaurs. We don't have much dinosaur evidence in Iowa. That's a question we get from a lot of the children that come through. But our next stop is something that we think is even more interesting than the dinosaurs, and that's the Ice Age. This diorama here shows one of our most popular people here at the museum. This is Rusty, our life-size ground sloth replica. And this museum has been working on a giant ground sloth excavation in southwest Iowa for several years now. And we're currently getting out to do excavations as well as doing some important research and analysis with collaboration of many departments on campus as well as researchers around the country. And so this will help us to learn more about this unique animal that scientists don't know a lot about, the giant ground sloth from the Ice Age that inhabited all of North America including Iowa. This is Megalonyx jeffersoni is its official name, named after Thomas Jefferson, who was very interested in paleontology and was the first one to describe this animal, although he thought it was more of a lion-like creature. This is related to the two-toed and three-toed sloths of South America, but it's about 500 times the size of those creatures that we have today. And the giant version did go extinct at the end of the Ice Age about 10,000 years ago. There's a lot we don't know about this animal, and we're hoping that our project down near Shenandoah in southwest Iowa will help us learn a lot more about this creature that's somewhat mysterious to scientists. And they lived around North America with the mammoths and mastodons, saber-toothed, and other interesting creatures of the Ice Age. And so as you can see, he gets dressed up for holidays. And along this wall, we do have some other fossils from the Ice Age in Iowa. We have some of the extinct mammals. On the left side in the middle, we have the immigrant animals that are still alive. They just don't live in Iowa anymore. And on the right, we have some animals that lived in Iowa during the Ice Age that still live here today. And a lot of people don't realize that some of the animals that we see in our backyards and in our parks and around were here during the Ice Age, that not everything were these giant animals like the mammoth and the giant ground sloth. So this is a subject we like to talk about a lot at this museum based on our giant ground sloth research. And then this section leads us into the native cultures of Iowa, because we do know that the very first Native Americans entered Iowa before the end of the Ice Age. So here we see a Paleo-Indian man. They hunted with spears. We know they hunted some of the big Ice Age animals, and after those animals went extinct, bison and deer were the most important animals for these Native Americans. We don't find a lot of evidence of these people other than their spear points, as you can see on the wall, and some bones of animals they butchered and some other tools. We continue on to some cultures that are from contemporaneous to the Great Oasis period, Mill Creek and the Glenwood, also farming cultures. Interesting artifacts. We start to see more designs on the pottery showing a cultural identity. And we do know that populations are increasing. The Mill Creek sites show evidence of fortification, so they're protecting themselves from other tribes as land becomes a little more scarce. Here we enter the area that talks about the Meskwaki tribe, which most Iowans are familiar with today. The Meskwaki today live on a settlement up near Tama and Toledo in Tama County. And this diorama here shows a Meskwaki village from about the 1850s, after they've been trading with the explorers and traders for some time. So you see the woman with the metal pot over the fire. European-made clothing, although they're living in a traditional house, which is called the Owikia. And this is based on a site up near Marshall County along the Iowa River. And then on the wall in front of us here, we have a wide array of Meskwaki materials from about the turn of the century, the late 1800s, early 1900s. The beautiful beadwork, the woodwork, some of the status symbols, the feather cape on the back wall, which belonged to Chief Powesheik, the bear claw necklace, various woven materials, quill work, some toys for the children in the middle, mats and baskets. And here we show the three different types of environment that are found in Iowa. The forest and the woodlands. This is based on Palisades-Kepler State Park during the spring. We have the wetlands. And again, this is what most of Iowa would have looked like for many, many years, thousands of years. We're now in the museum's mammal hall, which has mammals from Iowa and around the world, from aardvark to zebra. and we talk about the adaptation and diversity of mammals around the world, the environmental factors. Anyway, we have mammals from around the world that children of Iowa maybe won't get to see anywhere else. So we have things like a giant panda from China. So it's a really great place for kids to kind of learn about animals of the world. This section we show about the mammal skeletons and how varied they are from animal to animal, the different adaptations. Above us we have a 50-foot right whale from the North Carolina coast. So this is one thing that children from Iowa may not ever get a chance to see. It's quite impressive standing under it. We talk about the hoofed mammals, skeletal evolution, the primate, antlers and horns and tusks of different mammals. So this is the Hedgebeck Hall of Birds, which focuses on the world of birds in Iowa and around the world, divided into various groups. This is a wonderful historic exhibit, the Laysan Island Cyclorama, which was made in 1914 after the museum sent an expedition to Laysan Island, which is out near the Hawaiian Islands. And so they put together this exhibit, and it's called a cyclorama because you enter and you're surrounded by scenes from this one environment. And so this is a historic exhibit for a few reasons. It was the first diorama of its type and is featured in many museum history books. And it's also historic in that after the museum's expedition to Laysan Island, several of the bird species went extinct. So some of the birds featured in this gallery or in this diorama have since gone extinct, so they're important for study. They're no longer around to study alive. This is our Biosphere Discovery Hub, which opened in September of 2007, and we discuss the environment of Iowa, cultural interaction with the environment, how our environment has changed people through time and vice versa. And we also highlight the University of Iowa's contributions to environmental research, both here and around the world. So I'd like to encourage everybody to come visit us. Admission is free. And our regular hours are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 to 3, Thursday and Saturday, 10 to 5, and Sundays, 1 to 5. We are closed Mondays and most national holidays. Our summer hours for June and July are Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 5, so we're open a little bit later, and Sunday, 1 to 5. We have a website, which is uiowa.edu/NatHist, or you can just go to the University of Iowa's webpage and look us up on the A to Z search. We encourage everybody to come visit us. You can also come visit the Old Capitol Museum next door. We're open the same hours and both are free admission. So it's a great way to spend an afternoon with your family, or if you have people in from out of town, or if you haven't been here in a while, we have a lot of new things that you can come check out.